I am here in the office of the manager of the Kimilili municipality. This is Mr. John Wekesa Ndombi. Mr. John Wekesa Ndombi has a history. He's a son, one of the youngest sons of a pioneer entrepreneur in the district and in the county, Ndombi. He was an entrepreneur, but also a leader. We want to hear from the manager how his father went into leadership in politics. Did he just jump into it, or was it a trajectory? We have already heard about his entrepreneurial and the business road. How did he start with leadership or entrepreneurship first, and what propelled him into leadership? Was he given on a silver plate, or was it a calling, or did the people want his leadership? So we want to hear from his son to tell us the transition of his father from entrepreneurship to leadership, and whether therefore he abandoned entrepreneurship and kept leadership, or he carried both of them. Sir, just for the sake of this particular video, you can introduce yourself, and we already know that you are a son of a pioneer entrepreneur in Bungoma. So you tell us the transition from entrepreneurship to leadership, please.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prof. Once again, my name is John Wekesa Ndombi. I'm Municipal Manager Kimilili. As it has rightly been said, the son of one of our pioneer entrepreneurs and leaders, that is the late Mzee Nicholas Ndombi. Mzee Nicholas Ndombi engaged in business, that is dairy business, and on the basis of his example in doing business and improving the lives of the people within the community, he was appointed by the then local native council as the head of dairy business in the district. And the headquarters of that district by then was at the current Kibabi University. And after being appointed as the head of the dairy business within the district, that opened a way for him to advance further in leadership. And in 1940, the African District Council granted him permission, as we already said, to build a cattle dip. But in 1948, he was nominated as a member, or what we could call a councillor, of the Elgon Nyanza African District Council. And the person who nominated him was the district officer by then, Mr. Okwiri, after looking at his exemplary leadership in business. And upon his nomination, of course, the then leadership administration, local administration, led by Chief Sudi Namachanja, they endorsed and supported that nomination, and therefore he was a nominated councillor, so to say, from 1948. And by that time, the chairman of the local, the Elgon Nyanza African District Council was Mr. Pascal Nabwana, whom then my father worked with. And during the same year, that is 1948, of course, he continued in business still. He bought a plot within the CBD of the current Bungoma town, and he built a shop. So he was doing both leadership, political leadership, and business or entrepreneurship still. And as a business person and a political leader, he said he used to bank his money in the South African Bank, which by then was located in Kakamega. Now, because of his good reputation as an entrepreneur, many locals within Bungoma and Bungoma town, they were able to learn from him. People like Mzee Haoya and others, they learned from him. In fact, Mzee Haoya was able to obtain a plot just next to him, currently where the first Khetia supermarket is. That was a plot belonging to Mzee Haoya. And according to him, no poor African was allowed to own or develop a plot or to develop a plot within the Bungoma CBD at that particular time. So the colonialists and the administration at that time were able to look at the African or the person who was doing well in entrepreneurship to allow him to own a shop within the Bungoma town. At one time, when Bungoma town grew, he said that the Asians conspired to want to take away his shop from him. That was in the 1960s. But when Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, the then president, visited Bungoma, Mzee was able to tell, to inform the president about that threat. And Mzee Jomo Kenyatta gave a warning to the Asians and any other community who are intended to take away his plot or any other African's plot within the CBD. And therefore they were warned, and my father was able to retain that particular shop within town. But in terms of leadership again, you know, he served for 15 years as a member of the African District Council, the ADC. And in consideration of his development record, he was overwhelmingly elected as the first vice chairperson of the Bungoma Urban Council in 1963. He was the vice chairperson, elected as the vice chairperson of Bungoma Urban Council in 1963. The chairperson was somebody called Tessia, and Tessia was advantaged because he was able to speak English fluently. But my father could not speak fluent English, and that's why he said they were settled for him for the vice chairperson. Otherwise, he could be the chairperson.
There is a Tessia bakery with the bread coming from, I don't know, is it Bungoma? Is it that? Could that be the same Tessia?
No.
No. Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Tessia was a Tanzanian settler. He was an immigrant from Tanzania who had settled in Bungoma and learned quite some Kiswahili and English, and that's why he was elected as the chairman of Bungoma Urban Council in 1963, my father being his vice. And so there were, of course, when Tessia was elected as the chairperson of Bungoma Urban Council, the locals protested. Actually, they wanted my father to be the chairperson. But the credentials at that time were that one should be able to speak fluent English and Kiswahili. So my father could speak some English and some Kiswahili, but not as fluently as Mr. Tessia. Then after serving for 10 years as the vice chairperson of the Bungoma Urban Council, he resigned in the year 1973. And after resigning as the vice chairperson, he was elected as the chairperson of the finance committee of the council in the same year of 1973. But in 1974, he resigned, he retired from politics and went back to concentrate on farming.
Mm-hmm.
Back at home, he did quite some farming, maize farming, a lot of maize. He used to plant a lot of maize, and he still continued with his daily business at that particular time. up to until the time he became a little bit weak. That's when he left the business. But one key thing about his leadership credentials is that he knew the time to leave. And when he thought that his time for serving in politics was over, he voluntarily retired and went back to do his own business. He didn't want to serve in politics until death.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, many people at that time in his positions, when now independence came, they rushed to get in the settlement schemes. They left their original farms, ancestral farms, and did it also happen to you, to him, or where he was born is where he maintained until his death?
Yeah, uniquely about my father, where he was born is that is where he maintained until his death. He never moved away to go and maybe purchase property or settle anywhere else, apart from earlier in his life just going to work with the European settlers, but he didn't move away from where he was born.
So this was the Sangalo area, you said?
Yes, Sangalo, where there is Sangalo Institute of Science and Technology, next to the current Bungoma showground. That is where my father was born.
My dear have participated in donating land for that institute, or because close to the institute?
I think so, but what I only remember is that he participated in pioneering the dairy business, because Sangalo started as a dairy business center. That is in the 1930s. So he was a key person in pioneering dairy business within Sangalo. So he might not have donated land, but he donated the idea of advancing the dairy business within Sangalo.
Now, in your interactions with your father, how many similar Bukusu or Bungoma elders or citizens would you compare with your father? In other words, did you also observe other, you mentioned somewhere Pascal Nabwana, Mzee Haoya. Who are the other pioneering leaders and entrepreneurs that you can remember, so that we keep record of these our pioneers?
In my interaction with my father, he used to mention quite a number of leaders and I believe entrepreneurs during his time. Of course, he mentioned Mzee Jestmoa Webi. He used to mention him a lot. He used to mention Mzee Osianju from Kibabi, and I think they worked with him very closely. Mzee Haoya from around Bungoma town. He used to mention him. That must be the father to one of the former MPs.
Yes.
Haoya.
Haoya, yes.
Yeah, he used to mention some chiefs and administrators at that time, including Jonathan Barasa from Silesia, and of course, most importantly, and the person he worked with very closely, that is Pascal Nabwana from Kimilili, and a few others, maybe some I might have forgotten, but at least the ones I can remember most prominently is Nabwana, Webi, Barasa, Osianju, and a few others.